So, hi, and welcome to my next episode of Leading Talks. I'm really excited to have you here, and I'm even more excited, if I can put it like that, to have my next guest, Aleta Maxwell. Aleta Maxwell, she is a distinguished leadership coach, she's an organizational consultant, and she's a best-selling author, which leaves me in awe. Writing is something I've always thought of doing, but what it's like sometimes you just never get around to it. So I want to know Aleta's secret. How did she get around to it? She's led large companies, very fast moving, fast paced, in working in fast paced environments. Turnovers of up to $62 million. So she's been there. She's been on the coal face, experiencing the leadership from both sides. And also then she's gone off on her own and brought all of this experience and practice and passion into helping others. So, Aleta, a very, very warm welcome to Leading Talks, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm excited to hear about your journey, really. Kind of how did you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so it was a lot of twists and turns in my career that at the time I did not understand whatsoever. And now looking back, I'm so I feel very fortunate to have had all of them. So I started in the hospitality industry. I got into restaurants when I was very, very young, worked my way up into different roles, specifically training always kind of called to me. Worked my way up to the general manager role of a restaurant group here in New York City. In 2007, I had my son. So I decided to pivot because I wanted to spend a little bit more time with him than my current role had allowed me to. So I pivoted into HR. I spent about 6 years in HR with nonprofits. When the hospitality industry called me back, I ran into two brothers that were from the Bay Area, where I was originally from. They had started a restaurant here in New York City. They had 3 locations. They had a goal of growing to sell the company. So I joined them. I helped them build to 22 locations. Throughout that time, I was in charge of finance, human resource, and operations. As we grew, I was able to give the finance hat away and the operations hat away and really focus on being the chief human resource officer. During that time, what I was really drawn to and where I found my passion and my joy was when I was coaching the leadership in our organization. I found that so many struggled with things that came naturally to me. Difficult conversations, giving feedback in a really healthy way, and being super curious. So that's where I was focused on. I was really loving my role, but we ended up accomplishing our goal, which was amazing. In late 2019, early 2020, right before the world shut down, we sold the company. We were able to partner with a group that took over the company. We finalized that sale, and that allowed me to pivot. I started working in 2017 with my own coach, trying to decide what I wanted to do next. I could see that we were going to eventually reach our goal. And I was really grappling with, what did I want to do? Did I want to continue in the role that I was in at the moment, or did I want to pivot? And through our work together, I realized that I wanted to pivot. I wanted to go off on my own and really focus on my joy, my passion, which was coaching leaders to be the best leaders that they could be. So the world shut down. That gave me an opportunity to write a book. Never had thought about writing a book before, but my coach really encouraged me to take that on, and it was a heavy lift. I don't think I could have done it if the entire world was not shut down. That kind of allowed me to focus in. I wrote my book. I developed about 60 different online development courses for leaders at all levels, and I finished my certification of executive coaching, and I started working with some amazing leaders. I've been really fortunate over the last 6 years to work with leaders from the Department of Defense, from numerous industries like technology, healthcare, obviously hospitality. And I've really, really enjoyed seeing these leaders struggle with different situations and concepts and really grow themselves to become the best leaders that they could be, while grounding themselves in kind of the servant leadership model. And so that's really what I've been focused on these last 6 years.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, there's so much, and you know, I really had to fight the urge to stop you and say, wait, I want to know more about this. So I'm going to go back a little bit. So you were in hospitality, and then you left, and then you were drawn back to it. And what was it, you know, before you got into helping these brothers, you know, develop and grow their business? What was it that made you want to go back? Was it the fact that they were also from San Francisco? Or was it the fact that it was just the industry? Was it the excitement, the energy of working in rent? What was it?
I think it was a combination. It was definitely the excitement, you know, the huge difference between the nonprofit world and the hospitality world, right? One is very, very deliberate and a little bit slower in their decision making. Hospitality is a really quick, fast-paced movement industry. And so I was missing that a little bit. But really what drew me in was the owners of this company, Dos Toros Taqueria, the owners, Oliver and Leo. They had such a desire to do something that I had never seen done well in hospitality, which was center the entire focus on the employees. So they really put the organizational chart upside down. They really truly embody the servant leadership approach, where their thought process was, we are here for the employees. If the employees are happy, if the employees are engaged, if the employees want to come to work every day, we will be successful. And that was their focus. So to be able to join an organization that was doing this at a time that I had never seen it done, I had never seen that focus, it really aligned with where I was and what I wanted to do. It was a really, really good fit.
Well, you know, that's really interesting, because the old approach, well, the customer's always right, you know, you've got to do everything to please the customer, and the employee used to be forgotten. And it's so kind of narrow thinking, because if your employee is happy, then he or she's going to provide the level of service that's going to make your customer happy, and they're going to stay, and they're not going to leave, and you're not going to have to spend money on retraining and all of that, and you know, making sure that somebody fits. And they're going to, you know, they're going to love the business, they're going to love working with you, they're going to go the extra mile, all of those things, right? And it's all down to the leader. And that's the other thing, that most leaders will say, yeah, well, you know, that guy was no good. I mean, he was okay, you know, as a waiter or a chef or whatever, but he was just a nuisance. Well, maybe he was a nuisance because the way you treated him or her. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that bit, that little piece, is so often missing.
Yes.
Especially in hospitality, because you know, waiters, chefs, servers, whatever you want to call them, they tend to be overlooked, and it's an industry, especially where the level of turnover is very high, and it's expected to be high. It's accepted as a norm. But you said it doesn't have to be that way, and your partners felt the same way, and I think that's great.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, because they did not just talk the talk, they walked the walk daily.
Yeah. How did they do that? How did you do that? How did you make them feel?
Well, I think we centered everything on them. Every policy was not a reactionary policy based off of one person stepping out of bounds, but rather we focused on how is this going to affect the team? How are the team going to feel about this? We were very, very focused on the whys of every decision that we made. We were very transparent with the team, as transparent as we could be. And it started and stopped with our team. How does this affect the team, first and foremost? And to your point, yeah, we realized that when the team was taken care of, when the team felt seen, heard, and appreciated, they would go above and beyond, not just for us, but for our guests. And that transferred into loyalty. We saw over and over our guests come in and talk to our team like they were friends. They knew each other because the team felt like this was their business. We empowered them to make decisions. We empowered them to go out of their way for people. So they took so much more ownership and pride in their work. We did have, I think the standard industry for turnover is around 120%. we had about an 80% turnover, which is still very high for most industries, not for ours, obviously. And the people that stayed with us stayed for a long period of time. And so we really focus on celebrating them. I mean, we would do silly things, right? We would close the restaurant all the restaurants for a day in the summer. We would rent out a big boat on the Hudson and have a boat party for our entire team to really celebrate the team's success. And that really does translate to the employees. The employees really feel like it's not my success, it's our success. And so that engagement was really, really way better than I've seen in any other environment.
Right. Yes, I'm sure it is. So those lessons that you learned, the hands-on lessons, right? You did stuff and you saw the outcomes of those. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume this sounds is a fundamental or a foundational part of the work that you're doing today with teams and clients in all kinds of industries. Is that right?
Yes. Regardless of the industry, I find that the fundamentals stay the same. When you have a leadership team that's focused on doing right by their team, when you have a leadership team that is really intentional about being curious in the moment, not leading with assumptions, but really leading with curiosity. When you have a team that is really focused on getting to the end goal, which is not only the success, but also uplifting every single person, then you're going to see that translate into that engagement. You're going to see that translate into better top line profits and bottom line as well.
Right. It's fantastic. And there's so much more we could talk about it with teams, but on teams, but there's, I'd love us to move on as well. I mean, you went from a startup to 21 restaurants. What were the, this is going to sound really open-ended, and I suppose in a way it is, but I want you to focus or, help me with this. If you had to say the top 3 things that you found most challenging on that particular journey, what would they be?
Well, I think it's very challenging taking a organization from startup mindset to a larger, more structured mindset, right? It's really fun at startups because you're getting to create, you're getting to do things for the first time. When you're a large organization, there has to be a lot of foundation building, right? The policies, the whys, culture, right? Culture is not just the words that we put up on the wall, but how we show up on a daily basis, and ensuring that everybody in the leadership team, when you're large, is living the culture on a daily basis is much harder than if you're, just the ownership team of 3 people and me. All 4 of us walking the same walk is much easier than getting 20 to 30 people in line and on the same page. That was probably the biggest challenge, is that growth. I think the second biggest challenge was putting together a group of individuals that were really, really focused on being intentional with how they showed up. Ego is a huge culture killer. And so many times when we were searching for individuals to add to our team, that was one of my focuses, is kind of sniffing out the ego. And if ego was how they led, then they weren't going to work with our group. And so I think, making sure that the right people were on the team, not necessarily culture fits, because we definitely wanted diversity and a difference of opinions and perspectives, but making sure that we were aligned with our ego and our intentionality was a focus of ours.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a very difficult thing to do to start with the people. It's very difficult when you meet them to kind of dig down and see, who they really are. We've all been in situations where you start working with someone, you think, oh my goodness, this is not the person I thought they were. And but there are ways we can narrow that down. But also culture, and again, as you say, culture is not just something that's written, in your entrance area above your reception desk or whatever it is. It's how you live and breathe as an organization. And again, if we're not intentional about culture, it grows itself intrinsically, and it may not grow in a way that supports the goals and objectives and mission of the organization. And again, it's another area where so many leaders, they don't think about it enough. it's a culture, it's a soft, soppy kind of word, oh yeah, we've got a great culture here, without really knowing what it means or how important it is, how to create it, how to leverage it, how to understand that as the organization changes, your culture needs to change with it. And that's tough, right? Changing your culture is tough. It needs commitment. It needs commitment from the team. It needs commitment from leadership. In terms of time, money, it's not cheap either, financially. It's such a big area. So yeah, I'm full of admiration for you and your team for having achieved that, because it can't have been easy. And you would not have got to your 21 restaurants if the culture hadn't supported that strategy.
100%. I think one of the things that the owners did a really great job of and our leadership team coalesced around was healthy accountability. I think that, we're going to make mistakes, or there's going to be days that we show up and we're not walking in line with the culture. But being able to call each other up in a healthy way and point out, hey, you're doing that thing that you said you didn't want to do again. You're doing it right now. In a way that doesn't make the other person defensive, but allows them to lean in and be like, what are you talking about? How am I doing that? That was key for us as we grew, because you add people in and they're not going to know the norms and the reasonable behavior right off the bat. And so having a culture or an environment where everybody felt very safe to call each other up, even ownership, they were very, very big at call us out, call us up in the moment. And so we did. And I think that very much trickled down to everybody. And I think that encouraged even frontline staff to call out management and say, hey, you're doing that thing that you said you weren't going to do.
That's fantastic. I love it. I really do. And when you hear stories like that, it kind of fills you with, with joy and possibility that it can be done, it can be done. Because, I'm sure you've experienced the same, where you meet people who've gone into larger organizations, especially with large organizations, that you see this. And people are so set in their ways, and you talk to their leaders and they think, well, I'm not going to change anything. But actually, everyone can change something in the culture, right? Even if it's only in their business unit, their part of it, you can still change. I've certainly experienced it. So anyway, so then you sold the chain of restaurants, you and your partners, and you decided that's it. You had this calling to go into coaching and training and stuff. So what was it, when you were going through that process? What were you thinking? Were you thinking, finally, I know what I want to do?
Well, I was saying to myself, finally, I'm in something that feels right, that feels like I'm able to add value in a really meaningful way that doesn't feel like it's at all fighting with any of my personalities. Really what it was my son kind of triggered it. It was 2019. He had a science project due. He did his science project. He didn't get a grade that he really loved. He came home, was frustrated with it. We were talking about it. I was coaching him through how to have a conversation with his teacher. He came back from school. I said, how did that conversation go? And he goes, my teacher was too busy to talk to me. He said to just email me. And there was this light bulb moment in my mind. It was like, yeah, no wonder none of my managers know how to have difficult conversations with their team. They're not given the opportunity to practice like I was, right? So thinking back to me in school, there was no email or text your teacher. You had to have every conversation face to face. Thinking about how I used to do book reports, right? I'd have to go to the library, I'd have to talk to the librarian, I'd have to go search for the book, I'd have to sometimes negotiate with the kids that were also trying to check out the same books for their book reports. There were a lot of steps, a lot of conversations I had to have. My son was showing me in this moment that he wasn't being given these chances to develop these skills. And it kind of clicked with me that this is why none of my managers are able to do these things. This is why a lot of leaders in today's environments aren't able to have these moments of honesty with their team because they just haven't been given the opportunity to practice that. And so that light bulb moment really set me on, I'm on the right path here. Coaching people to have difficult conversations, to give feedback in ways that are uplifting, to have curiosity to get to the root causes of problems. This is what I can help with because I'm seeing so many people suffer from not having this skill set.
That's wonderful. Now, look, okay, so you go to an organization, you go to a potential client or a client, and you say, listen, guys, you've got to be talking to each other, face to face. There are people, around you whom you need to engage with. What is a typical reaction that you get? Are people scared? Are they excited? Are they unsure? What?
Well, a typical conversation will go like this. Did you give that person feedback? Yes, I did. Great. Tell me about that conversation. Well, I sent an email and it was this. Oh, we sent an email. What stopped us from going to that person and talking to them? Well, it's just easier to send an email. What did you learn from that email? Because in an email, you're saying a lot of things, but did you learn anything? Well, no. What would happen if you went into the conversation with curiosity? What would happen if you went into this conversation with some questions that you were curious about for some answers that you could walk away and understand that person a bit better? And it's like this moment in their eyes, like, I never even considered that. I never considered why a conversation might allow me to identify the root cause, where an email or a text message is just allowing me to say my thoughts, but not really understand what was at play.
So it's a one-way information. Well, I wouldn't even call it information. It's data, actually, in many ways. Flow with no feedback. You don't know how it's been received, right? You don't know if the person understands what you said, because, again, I'm sure you know this. What people hear is often not what we thought we said, right? And we think that's fine, and it's a sad commentary, really, because it's weakening our relationships with others.
Well, allows you to check the box to say, yeah, I told them that what they did was wrong. But right. In my mind, that only allows that person to understand that what they did was wrong. That does not allow anybody to understand why that occurred. So oftentimes I have clients that come to me and say, I'm really frustrated because I've had the same conversation numerous times with the employee and nothing has gotten better. And so I'll start asking questions and I'll realize, yeah, you had a surface level conversation. You told that employee what they're doing is wrong. You told them what you wanted, and then you moved on. If you continue to have surface level conversations, nothing's probably going to change. It's not going to change until you understand why that is happening. So many leaders that I speak with, they do have a superpower of being able to identify creative solutions to problems. But they do themselves such a disservice because they don't allow themselves to use that superpower. Until you understand why the thing is happening, what's causing this employee to not do the thing that you want, you can't use your superpower of creative solutions. You're kind of tying your hands, if you will. Sure. Once you can identify why that thing's happening, is it a training issue? Is it an engagement issue? Is it because I don't understand the impact? Until you can understand the why, you're going to see that pattern repeat itself. Once we understand why, we can put our superpower to use, which is our creative solutions, and work with that person to take that obstacle off the table. And that's where we're going to see change in behavior typically.
Right. No, absolutely. It's very, very important that we talk about change in behavior, because without that, it's just words, right? But what do you say when a leader says something like, yeah, well, I get the point, Aleta, it makes sense to me, but I've got 100 people to lead. I've got 1,000 or 10,000 people to lead. You can't expect me to talk to everybody, right? I don't have time to do that. What do you say to that?
Well, then we should probably look at how you're utilizing your time and if it's the best way to utilize your limited resource. Because what I know is that each frontline employee that we had at Dos Toros, we did the math and it cost us $3,000 per person for turnover. So do the math. We can either be totally okay spending millions of dollars on turnover, or we can take a look at how we're allocating our time and put significant time into those conversations so that we have less turnover, so we have a stronger culture and more engagement. It is a discussion about how you want to allocate resources at the end of the day. And I have found that most businesses do have a lot more time to spend than money at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. I think that's a really powerful argument to present to them, because yes, people don't think about that. They don't look at the underlying costs of labor turnover, of human resource turnover, and all of that. It's and very often that's because organizations have to report in very short time horizons. Your monthly results, your 3 monthly, 6 monthly, annual. So you have very short time horizons, or leaders, managers have very short time horizons in the actions that they take. Whereas the labor turnover thing, well, that's a problem for tomorrow, maybe. How much it's going to cost? Well, we'll find out next year. But right now, I've got this to do, right? So it's
and what's funny is that they end up spending the same amount of time, right? So if I'm going to have a conversation with an employee and I'm going to have the same conversation 5 times, and each time I have that conversation is going to take me 10 minutes, there's 50 minutes. But every time I have that conversation, both of us are more frustrated. So it's 50 minutes and a ton of frustration. Or I can spend 45 minutes right here and be done with it. And the employee now has a lot more trust, and I have a lot more empathy and trust built with this employee. So long-term, it strengthens our relationship. 45 minutes, very little frustration. 50 minutes, a lot of frustration. How do you want to spend your time?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely. While you were talking, it just reminded me of a personal situation. I was in Eastern Europe many years ago now, and I was talking about precisely this point, and this participant in the group said, "Yeah, you people in the West, you've just got too much time. It's such a waste of time." I said, "No, it's because we don't have time that we have to do it this way, because otherwise we keep coming back to the same problem, And everyone around him, you could see the lights go on, but he actually felt uncomfortable accepting that actually my argument was strong. He never thought of it that way.
Mindset shift, yeah.
It is, yeah. But it's absolutely true. It does. People do feel that. Now, there was something, when I was reading a little bit about you, Aleta, that really caught my eye, and I'd love to hear more about that. That's imposter syndrome. What is it, and how does it come to be?
Well, I think the basis of it is that when we don't believe that we have earned the right to be at the tables that we are at, it's based in self-doubt. And so many leaders I see grapple with this. And for some leaders, they then lean into showing and proving that I belong here by authority, right? So if the most insecure leaders I find, the most people that are grappling with imposter syndrome, are the ones that come out very, very confident, sure of themselves, and it's my way or the highway. I also find
like a cover, yeah? They're covering, okay. Mm-hmm.
I also feel that those are then the people that take on this role, that they have to have all the answers, that they have to lead at all times, that they have to know where they're going, and they alone are the ones that can craft the plan. So once we break through that, and once I challenge leaders that I work with to instead see themselves as the people that are going to inspire the team to come up with the best ideas, and to rally the team around ideas, and to get curious about different perspectives, I tend to see their imposter syndrome sometimes, and most of the times, relax. I tend to see them as leaders not feel like they have to come up with all the answers. And that's when I really see the respect and trust from the team being built. So it's kind of a two-pronged situation. The more that we feel we're not adequate enough to be in the seat, the more that we feel we have to prove that we do belong there. And that is where typically we will unintentionally break the trust with our team, not be vulnerable with our team, and not engage our team in a way that allows them to bring their best selves forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the other risk, of course, with someone who pretends or believes they need to have all the answers, is that they'll make decisions which, time shows, were completely inappropriate. And had they only spoken to their teams beforehand, they could have had a far better, more balanced, more productive decision-making process. But it's dangerous, I think.
Yeah. I do find that the best skill that I have seen for leaders is the skill or understanding how to create buy-in. That even if a team, and I've seen this in my own experiences, even if a team is not completely sold on your plan, doesn't necessarily think it's the best way for it, but if you spend the time to listen to their concerns, to address their concerns, to hear from them best courses of action, and create that buy-in, they will follow you. And when it turns out that maybe your idea wasn't the best and you hit some roadblocks that you did not foresee, they will rally around you to help you overcome them. Right. I see that the leaders that don't know how to create buy-in, that have a plan of action, say, hey, this is my plan. Any issues? No? Okay, we're going to continue on. Those are the ones that when things start to go awry, when they hit those unexpected roadblocks, their team's sitting there with their hands crossed over like, it's your problem, not mine. And that's where you see things start to fall apart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what you've just described, I often kind of refer to as the difference between a leader and a manager, right? So people lead managers because they've got the title, not because they want to follow that person. Whereas people follow leaders because they're leaders irrespective of their title, because they, as you say, buy into the leader's approach. Yeah, okay. So imposter syndrome, they feel that they have to know all the answers. Where does it come from? Because I've experienced it a lot, and you see with these blustering leaders, coming, yeah, do this, do that. I'm the big boss here. And you think, actually, you know what? I wish I got your money for the kind of stupidity that you're describing. I mean, because it's so obvious to everyone around them that they don't know what they're talking about, but they feel they have to say something. Where does this insecurity come from, and how do these? Because this is a question I've asked myself. Maybe you can help me. How do these people get to those positions of authority with that level of incompetence?
Well, I've seen it, and to be completely honest, I did it as a leader when I was promoting people. We get into this thought process that this person's really good at this thing, and we have this leadership position open, and we'd much rather develop from within than hire from the outside. So they're good at this thing, let's just put them in that role, without understanding that it's very, very different skill sets, right? Being good at the tactical hands-on thing does not necessarily equate to being good in leadership, to understanding community structure or communication structure and building trust and being vulnerable and all of these different emotionally intelligent skills that are needed for leadership. We just don't see the difference sometimes. And again, I've been guilty of this. I have promoted people because they've been really good at this thing, and let's try them out in a leadership role, and then been horrified when that imposter syndrome is what's leading the charge. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of work now I have to do with this individual. So I think it's first, understanding the difference in skills, understanding that just because somebody's good at the tactical hands-on does not necessarily mean that they're going to be great at leadership. But I think the other thing that really comes down to it is that these individuals do need development. And I've seen that we have not really invested the resources like we used to for a number of reasons, right? I think back when I was coming up, there was a lot less movement in any industry, right? So even in hospitality, I remember serving with the general manager as an assistant general manager for years. This person developed me. This person had a huge interest in seeing my skill set grow. Whereas now that doesn't really happen, right? Even in a restaurant group, people are constantly being moved from position to position or location to location. We're not developing these skills that are so needed because we are focusing our resources on training. And the difference between training and development is very vast. And if you're only investing in training and you're not really investing in development, then I can almost guarantee that you're going to have a lot of cultural issues in your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really important distinction. I'm glad you brought it up, actually, Aleta, because many people don't understand that distinction. They think you train someone, they're going to be competent. No, they'll be competent when they have the kinds of skills, the so-called soft skills. Otherwise, you're going to keep promoting people to the level of their incompetence, and then you'll stop promoting them. But that's again a very, very common error that organizations make. I think it's important. So yeah, imposter syndrome is also, I think it's sometimes it's deeper than that. It's the individual themselves, right? And we often see from childhood, they have these experiences where they've been made to feel inferior in some way, or they feel inferior in some way, and then they try and cover it up, and people see them as someone strong when they're the opposite.
Yeah.
And that kind of carries through into the rest of their lives, and everyone else sees them as strong when actually they're not. But they're too far gone now to say, but actually, you know what? I don't feel that confident, and can someone help? So it's a really tough switch to make, mentally and in terms of connecting with others. Have you experienced that at all?
Very much so. I remember I was personally kind of responsible for somebody's imposter syndrome. There was a person in our organization who got promoted really quickly because they were really good at the tactical. They were also really good at being curious in certain moments. But so they got promoted very, very quickly, and I did not realize the impact that it would have on them, because it's very much led to them feeling like they didn't deserve the job. They were much younger than a lot of our other people in that role. So they had an imposter syndrome because they just felt like, I have not put in my dues. What am I doing here? Why would they promote me when all these people are much older than me and they have much more experience? So it was that rapid ascension is what kind of brought the imposter syndrome. And I did work with them quite extensively, and they're a CEO right now in a different organization, and seeing them thrive now has been so much fun. I no longer work with them, but I just watch them from afar, and it's amazing. They were able to overcome their imposter syndrome. But I feel like, there's a lot of different factors that go into why somebody's feeling that way, from the way that they were raised, from the different opportunities they've been given, from culture and environmental expectations or what they have heard. There's so many different reasons why somebody can be suffering from imposter syndrome. But what I like to share with most people is that we all suffer from it. Every single person at every single level has a moment or two that says, oh crap, am I up for this? Can I do this? Right? So I think that's what I typically talk about the most with individuals, is that do not think you are special because you have these moments, because we all suffer from them. The person that is standing up on the biggest stage that seems like they would never ever suffer from that, I guarantee they have moments where they're like, me? Really? You want to hear from me?
Yeah.
So once we understand that is just a human thing, that there's going to be moments of doubt, I think that from a lot of my clients, I see them kind of soften with that and understand that that's just part of everybody's journey.
Yeah. It's okay to feel that. Yeah.
No, is it not? I feel like it's good. I feel like that's the thing that keeps us wanting to improve and looking for improvement, right? If we all felt like we were the best and were fully baked, I think that would be a very, very bad thing for humanity.
It certainly would. We'd kind of free. I could talk about imposter syndrome all day, but I want to get onto your book, because you did something that most people didn't. And that is, instead of complaining about COVID, you made yourself write a book in that time. Use that opportunity to tell us all about that. You said it was difficult. What's it about, and why was it difficult?
Well, it's about how to have difficult conversations that motivate and inspire. One of the things that I saw repeatedly ad nauseum while I was in my previous role as Chief Human Resource Officer was that people really shy away from having difficult conversations, from giving direct feedback, from acknowledging that there's been a pattern of behavior, from getting curious in the moment, like we talked about previously, and understanding the why. People tend to do one of a couple things. They either don't have the conversation at all, they avoid it. Typically that then means that this will come out during a employee evaluation. So then we kitchen sink it, was what I called. So if you and I were working together and I've saved up all of my gripes for 6 months, and then we sit down for your employee review and I tell you everything you've done wrong in the last 6 months, I throw the kitchen sink at you. That usually does not make you feel good. That usually destroys any trust that you and I have built, because now you're going to walk away, and every time I smile at you or nod at you or tell you great job, you're going to be thinking, is it a really great job? Are you writing this down in your notebook to tell me in 6 months that you didn't like the way I did this, right? That's one way of people handling it. Another way is we just rush through it. So I tell you what you did wrong and then I get out of there as quickly as possible. And then the third way I saw that this is dealt with is that I want to give you feedback, but I feel really, really bad. I don't know how to do this. So I'm going to give you a lot of positive feedback, and I'm going to sneak that one thing in there that I don't like, but then I'm going to go back to how great you are. And so we walk away and I think, whew, I gave him that hard feedback. And you walk away thinking, wow, she thinks I'm fabulous. I don't have anything to work on. And so I wrote this book because I just felt that, again, the experience I had with my son, the experience I had with countless managers in my old location, so many people were not given the development that I was given. I grew up in a household where we had dinners together every single night, and my dad loves to debate. So from a very early age, I sat at the dinner table debating constantly. I grew up being very comfortable with uncomfortable situations. And I was able to bring that into my leadership role seamlessly. I realized that not everybody was given that opportunity. Not everybody's been given an opportunity to practice some of these uncomfortable situations. So I really wrote this book as to help people think through conversations differently, to help people see their role in these conversations differently. I come from a sports background. My son is heavy into basketball. So to me, feedback is just part of our leadership role. If we're not constantly giving feedback to our team, we will not allow them to improve their performance. We're actually holding them back.
Right.
And so I wrote this book to add value in that space, to give some very clear, practical solutions that people can practice in bettering their difficult conversations.
Now, you see, everyone's looking at this saying, yeah, all right, Aleta, give us at least one practical thing, right?
Yeah.
When we next have our difficult conversation, I'll know something about how to do it.
Yeah, so one of the things I always challenge people to do is, typically when I see people getting ready for a difficult conversation, they write down all the things that they want to say. So I challenge everybody to do that, but then next to that, write down all the things you want to learn. What do you want to know by the end of this conversation? I have found that will very much change the dynamic of the conversation. If you can come into the conversation more as an investigator, to understand what's really at play, what's really going on, and what this person needs from you in order to improve their performance. It's going to change the energy and the dynamics of the conversation, and it's going to allow you to walk away with more knowledge than you came into the meeting with.
Right. Great, because yes, let's remember that it's a two-way process. It's your opportunity to learn something too, and I think it's really, really powerful. What's your book called?
Uplifting Leaders: How to Have Difficult Conversations That Motivate and Inspire.
There you go. So I will put a link to the name. We'll put the name of your book down underneath this video, and also before we end, I'll be asking you for a couple more suggestions that you'd like to share with our audience. So you then kind of decided after COVID you produced this book, and you've been out in the big wide world. What's ahead of you, Aleta?
Well, I'm really excited. This year we launched our masterminds. So what I found is that so many companies just did not have the bandwidth to develop out their team. So I heard a lot of companies saying, hey, we want to do this one-off workshop, which I think is great. Workshops are great to invite people to start thinking through a concept and to kind of whet their palate, if you will, on a particular concept. but I don't feel that a one-off workshop is really going to move the needle so much. I feel that ongoing development is what we see really impact teams from all different sides. So my mastermind is in line with that. My mastermind is a company-specific mastermind. So I'm currently, I just did one the other day for a fashion group. And so I'm doing meeting with every single leader from this fashion group once a month. There is learning that goes out based off of the topics that we have decided for their mastermind. So this month's was how to create buy-in. So they get a learning from me, about a 15 to 20 minute video to whet their palate. And then we have an hour-and-a-half group coaching call with all the leaders. How do we apply this? What are some obstacles that are automatically coming up from you, that challenges that you believe are going to hold you back from applying this? And let's talk through how you might navigate those. And what I find comes out in these group coaching calls is a couple things. First, really practical advice, whether it comes from me or each other, as to how to navigate some conflicts that might come up. We really dive into mindset a lot. What is holding you back from applying this? Not what other people are doing that might become the obstacle, but what limiting beliefs might you be holding on to that is going to challenge you to apply this to your day-to-day? And then best practice sharing is where I love to start engaging, because I find that in a group dynamic, oftentimes we don't necessarily give ourselves the time to share best practices. This worked for me with this group. This did not work. Definitely do not do this, because this is what I saw. So it really gives everybody the time to share their best practices. And then that typically then leads to trust being established within the leadership team that maybe was not there before, because again, we just don't give ourselves that time on our calendar to have those conversations.
Oh my God. You know, I could hear myself talking the way when I listened to what you said, because I feel exactly, I love masterminds for precisely those reasons. And I run masterminds based on your namesake, actually, John Maxwell.
Oh, yes.
You know, so on some of his gems on leadership, and you know, I love doing that, and also have this thing called the Executive Mastermind Club, which is for senior leaders to do exactly what you've just described. But I do it for, of course, within organizations, but also between different organizations,
Amazing.
which is also a lot of fun, and I believe very valuable. It's wonderful. Okay, so unfortunately, Aleta, you know, time is against us at the moment. But I want to say thank you so much for sharing so much valuable information with me and with everyone else who's watching this. But if someone was, you know, when someone watches this and they're in a leadership role and they're saying, how can I improve? How can I get better? How can I be a better leader? How can I grow into a new role, a new level of leadership? Or how do I deal with the challenges I'm facing with my team? What's really important is that we give them some practical things that they can put into action now, tomorrow, you know, commit to it, put it into action, and hopefully that'll get their leadership journey restarted. So to someone like that, what would you say?
Well, I find that it's, and I think it's been a theme of our conversation, it is about intention. And so one of the things I might suggest is for this leader to give themselves some time, a good 30 minutes, to reflect on what type of a leader do they want to be. Another way to ask this is, if you were to come across your employees talking about you, how would you wish they described you as a leader? Once you've identified that, I would challenge them to put into practice at least one way to remind yourself of that intention throughout the day. So one of my things that I started about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is I decided I wanted to be a servant leader. And my intention for communication, regardless of the goal from the conversation, so it didn't matter if I was firing somebody, hiring somebody, or promoting somebody, I wanted everybody that I was in communication with to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. That was my mantra. And that is something that I wrote everywhere. It was on a whiteboard in my office. It was on Post-it notes on my laptop. It was on my mirror in the morning while I was getting dressed. And it was something that I just constantly repeated to myself, seen, heard, and appreciated. And I found that by doing that, it allowed me to reset my energy, specifically in times of high stress or difficult conversations, to remind myself of what type of a leader I wanted to be. So I find that when my clients can practice that, identify what type of leader they want to be, identify how they want people to feel during conversations with them, and then do something to remind themselves about that throughout the day, it will change the way they show up for conversations, their energy throughout a conversation, and then typically the end result of each conversation.
Fantastic. And over time, the dynamic within the team, they will pick up on it, others will pick, and suddenly you start operating completely differently. You know, I think that's one thing that many of us don't understand, that as leaders, we have so much influence on what happens going forward. And this is such a great way of doing this, because the way you think is going to influence the way your team thinks. And that's going to change everything. That is great, Aleta. Thank you so much. So now, if somebody says, hey, listen, I love what Aleta had to say, I want to talk to her, can they contact you?
Please do. I would love to offer all of your listeners a complimentary 45-minute strategy session. We can talk about their challenges, what's kind of holding them back, or what are the things that are a little crunchy. We can talk through what an action plan would look like for them, and then what working together might look like. Worst case scenario, they will walk away with a little bit more insight into what they can focus on to meet their end goals.
So there's nothing to lose and lots to gain. Excellent. Aleta, thank you very much again for taking the time. It was so much fun chatting to you. And yeah, I'm really excited on getting this conversation out to people and adding value to their lives.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.